Good morning, students. I'm very happy to be with you this morning. This is the presentation of the E2LT32 English Second Language of our IOL students. Welcome to the study of this important module. As you all know, English as a second language is very, very important for all our learners in Namibia because number one, it's the official language of the country, and from grade 4 on upwards, all children have to be taught their subjects in English. That is why teachers have to be proficient in using the language, because we as preschool teachers, teachers of grade 1, 2, and 3, our English must be good enough to prepare the learners so that when they come to grade 4, they are able to take all their subjects in English. Now, what is important to note is that pronunciation is not the most important thing. As you all know, English is pronounced differently by people from all over the world. If you are an Australian, you pronounce English in a certain way. The same with Indians, the same with Americans. We all know the American English very well. And Africans also have their own pronunciation of English. So the pronunciation is not important. Nobody can tell you that your English is not good enough because of your pronunciation. But what they can tell you is that the usage of your English is not good enough. That is the language, the grammar. And we are also going to have a look at that today. But first of all, let's have a look at what this presentation is all about. This presentation will guide you to answer all 3 papers set for this year. That's 2021. Find the answers to the questions given in your study guide. Some people rely on the internet. They rely only on this presentation. They rely only on the tutor, and they do not bother to study the study guide itself, and that is where the problem comes in. Both the DPPE and the DJPE courses are included in this presentation. Now there you will find my contact details. My name is Marguerite Pisani. You are welcome to contact me anytime at that number within those hours. I would suggest that you rather send me an email with your specific questions. Now, I know some of you don't have your own email account, which can make it a little bit difficult, but I would advise you to just tell me what your problem is and send me an email so that I have time to go and study the question, find the answer to your question, and reply in detail. Okay, now you will see there are different colors here. The pink, that's the paper and the technical aspects of answering the exam paper. Then this blue, the meaning of the introductory verb to the questions. As you know, all questions have a certain introductory verb, and it means that you have to take a certain action. We're going to have a look at that as well. Then in white, the questions to be expected in the paper. Then in a turquoise blue, possible language questions that you can expect in all the papers, suggestions to prepare for the exams, and then you have my contact details again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's go to number 1, the paper and its technical aspects. You know, when you step into an exam room, you are sometimes a little bit nervous, and it's always good to prepare yourself so that you know exactly what to expect. So let's have a look at this. All the questions must be answered. There are no choice questions. All the questions must be answered. Read the questions carefully before attempting to answer. Sometimes a student just sees the topic and then they start answering right away without giving attention to what exactly is asked. What does the tutor want? This question. Do you have to explain the facts? Do you have to come to a conclusion? What is it that the tutor wants? So you have to read the questions carefully before attempting to answer. Some students also don't read all the questions, and then they answer a question incorrectly, and later they come to the same question, or what they think is the same question, and then they give exactly the same answer. It is because they didn't read the whole paper quickly before the time. Study the language sections in the study guide and in this presentation carefully. All 3 papers have language questions. And that is what I talked about in the beginning. It's not your pronunciation that matters. It is how you use the language and your vocabulary. That is what is important in every language. Okay, now the technical aspects regarding answering the paper. The paper consists of the following. It consists of a front page. This page is divided into 2 columns. The left-handed column is completed by the tutor. Don't write anything here. The right-handed column is to be completed by the student. Okay, now then you will find a page with instructions regarding the exam rules, and then you will find the questions to be answered. Okay, now the right-handed column of the front page. The following headings are found in the right-handed column, and it must be completed by the student. Under the heading Student Details, you have to complete the following. Your student number. And by the way, that student number I always need when you send me an SMS or a WhatsApp or an email. You see, I teach 4 different subjects. And if you just give me your name, I have no idea what specific course you are doing. So you have to give me your student number when you contact me personally for some or other reason. But now back to the exam paper. In this right-handed column, we need your student number, your surname, your first name and initials. For instance, Margarita, Susanna, L, and your surname. ID number, examination center, student signature, and then just below this, which you have to complete, you are going to get general instructions. So read them carefully and make sure that they are understood. So let's read it together so that you know what to do, so that you don't have to spend too much time in the exam room studying all this. Answers are done on the paper itself. Lines are provided for this reason, and we generally allow 2 lines per fact. So if you see the question counts 10, you're going to have 20 and even 22 lines for you to complete the answer. Okay, and you have to do it on the paper. You cannot bring your own paper or get paper from the invigilator. You have to do it on the paper itself. Answer all questions. The marks allocated to the question are an indication of the number of facts that must be given, as well as the time to be spent on the question. So if a question counts only 5, 5 minutes max, you have to be able to quickly write the facts in 5 minutes. If the question counts 20, then you will know that you have to spend more time on the question. It is advisable to write down the facts below each other, point by point, and not in paragraph form. Sometimes students just begin. No capital letters, no full stops. They just go on and on and on and on. They do the most horrific things on their answer sheets. They don't bother to, when they come to the end of the line, to put a hyphen if they cannot complete the word and then go on in the next line. They just stop the word in the middle. No hyphen, no nothing, and then they just continue with a word in the next line. That is very wrong. I don't want you to do that. You have to break off a word at a certain point, put a hyphen, and then continue in the next line. Okay, as I say, unless you are asked to write it in paragraph form or in essay form, it is better to put your answers point by point below each other. to make it easier for me to mark, to make it easier for you to check whether you have all your answers. Okay, then write neatly and legibly. If the examiner cannot read what is written, marks cannot be awarded justly. Always verify the number of pages that the paper consists of and check if this is correct. Count them to make sure that they are all there. It happens that maybe just one single sheet, say number 4, page 4, is omitted when the paper is stapled together. So if you don't check that this paper consists of 10 pages and count them, is every page there, you might miss some marks. And then, of course, no cheating or disruption is allowed. Don't bring any notes along with you to the examination room. You're not allowed to talk to anybody else. Serious steps will be taken if these rules are not adhered to. Okay, examination instructions itself. No authorized, unauthorized material, notes, technical devices may be in your possession. In other words, no notes like these that I've brought along with me today. No cell phones, no tablets, nothing. No contact may be made with any other student during the writing of the exam. That's self-explanatory. Cell phones must be switched off. You may not have your cell phone even with you on the table anywhere. It must be left outside in your bag or wherever. It must be switched off. No one may leave the examination room within the first minute, 30 minutes. Okay, so if you come into the examination room and you see you've got no clue what's going on, you will rather want to write it the next time the opportunity is available, you still have to wait for 30 minutes before you may leave, and then you may not leave the last 15 minutes either. Okay, no late coming allowed. The question paper, the answering sheet, is the property of IOL and no part of it may be removed. What you get, you hand in again. All answers must be done on the paper provided by IOL. Rough work must be done on the question paper itself. So somewhere on the question paper at the back of a certain page, you may do your rough work. Okay? Check the sign list before leaving the room. That you sign before you leave the room. Smoking and eating, of course. You may not eat or smoke inside the examination room. Okay, how to answer a question. Each paper consists of 3 levels of difficulty, 1, 2, and 3. These levels are indicated by an introductory verb of each question. Now, a complete list of these verbs are found in the front of the study guide. All the actions required by the verbs are discussed in detail. We're going to look at a few of them just now. This list must be studied in depth because marks will be lost if the correct actions are not applied. Now, there are 3 levels of difficulty. Level 1, you can expect about 70% of the paper to consist of level 1 questions. Those are the easier ones that require very little action from your side except giving the facts. Level 2, that's 20%. That's a little bit more difficult. And then level 3 will consist of, the paper will consist of 10% of level 3 questions. Okay, now let's have a look at our introductory verbs. Level 1, these are the easier questions. You can expect these verbs: list, name, state. Just read what it says there. Present a list of names, the facts, objects, no details or discussions. Describe. Provide detailed features of an issue or stages of a process in a logical sequence. Okay. Explain. Provide something and indicate relationships between things, but not too complicated, please. Define, give a precise, brief meaning of something. We're going to have a look at some of these questions just now. Outline, give an overview in a concise and systematic manner. Now, you can expect these introductory verbs in your level 1 questions in the exam paper. It will not say level 1, but if you know your verbs, then you will know that these questions require very little from your side. It's just giving the facts. But now we come to level 2. Level 2 expects a little bit more insight. Discuss, for instance. The word discuss must immediately jump out, because now you have to give a clear description, then argue about features by pointing out negative things, positive things, come to a conclusion. The same with analyze. Analyze literally means taking it apart. Examine information in detail to discover the main ideas, the components or the patterns. Show the importance and relations between things. Compare, describe something, indicate relationships between things. It's always advisable to make columns where you have the facts here of the one subject and facts here of the other subject, and then you compare the two. Determine, use the information given to work out an answer. Level 3, even more critical thoughts are expected from the respondent. An initiative must be shown. Here you're not going to find the answer in the study guide. You have to think. You have to apply your skills, your knowledge, your what you have done in practice in your class must now come to the paper. Compare, again, indicate similarities and differences. Come to a conclusion. It must be done in tabular form. Evaluate. Determine the worth, the value, the quality, the success of something according to certain criteria. Design, compile, or draw. Here it's expected of a respondent to design a worksheet or a weather chart, for instance. Okay? So, especially for pre-primary children, this can be important, where you have to design something that they have to complete. Join the dots or follow the lines or whatever. Design a weather chart, or for the grade 1, 2 and 3 learners, maybe a work chart on how they spend their day, something simple like that. This will be expected of you in the exam. Discuss critically. Discuss critically means that you have to take all the facts and discuss them, giving your own insight. I want to know what's going on in your head. I want to know whether you can evaluate this fact and whether you can come up with something of your own. That is what, you see, they say one of the biggest problems of Namibian students, that's small and big, is that we were never taught how to think. We were just spoon-fed. We were taught like parrots. We were not taught to think for ourselves. And I can see this in your paper. Some students are completely baffled when you are asked, what do you think? And now you have to think of something out of the box that's not in your study guide. So, very important, think critically, discuss critically. Okay. And use the list given in the study guide to learn even more of the actions required by each introductory verb. But the verbs that I have listed are the ones that you can actually expect in your exam papers. Okay. Now, number 3, the questions to be expected in the paper. The papers are set both for the DPPE and the DJPE students. There are no questions where I will say this is only for DPPE or only for JPE. It's for all of you together. You will not find the answers to the questions in this presentation. I did not make a summary of the answers like other lecturers do. But I gave very clear directions where it can be found. For instance, Unit 1, 1.2.2. That means Unit 1, Subunit 1.2.2. The introductory verb is an indication of the level of the question, and it is put in bold here in the presentation, not in the exam paper. Find the instructions in the study guide to determine the action to be taken in each instance. and please contact me to help you find the correct answers where necessary. You are welcome to send me an email and say, this is the question. It can be found in Unit 1, 1.2.2, but I'm not exactly sure what you want. I see it counts 10 marks. Please help me. You can even work out the question as long as you don't work out all the questions, because that takes me ages to mark it all. But those that you are unsure of, you are welcome to work them out, send them to me by email. I will correct you, I will help you, and so both of us can learn more. Good. Now, let's look at the short questions you can expect in the exam. Now, these short questions can be anything of the following. They can be multiple choice questions where you have to say, is it A, B, C, or D? And please don't write out the whole answer. Just write number 1, A, or number 2, C. That is all I want. Please do not write out the whole thing. True or false, there you just have to indicate with a tick, is it true or false? Complete the sentence. Sometimes you just have to complete the sentence where I omitted a word. Sometimes you have to underline the correct answer. And sometimes you have to give a very short description or a definition from 1 to 2 marks. You will see here I have said short questions 1 to 5 marks. Okay. Now, I can ask you any of the following to define. Now, these appear in one of your 3 exam papers. So you better go and find them and highlight them in your study guide or write them down and make sure that you know the answers to the following. After each one, look at the first one, content-based instruction. What does that mean? Content-based instruction. Then you will see Unit 1, 1.1. You are going to find the answer in Unit 1, 1.1. Why am I not just giving you the answers? Because I want you to become familiar with the study guide. You're not a parrot. You are not just going to learn the answers. You are going to study them. You are going to internalize them. They must be part of you as a teacher. Remember, I want you to become the best teacher that you can possibly be. The best teacher is not a parrot. The best teacher is the person who understands what the content of the study guide means, and you have internalized it. Okay, so I'm not going to read through all of them. They are your short questions. Task-based instruction, what does that mean? A theme-based model, what does that mean? Phonology, morphology, cognition, semantics, pragmatics. So these you have to define just in a short sentence, 1 to 2, maybe 3, sometimes 4 or 5 marks. You will see it immediately in your study guide. Some more words that you have to define, concepts that you have to define. What does motherese mean? What does vowel mean? What does consonant mean? A word wall assessment, you will find it where exactly I have told you to find it. If you cannot find it, contact me, please. Name. Also 1 to 5 marks. Here you have to name the following. Name the image that comes to mind when describing how to teach English as a second language. Name the language in which teaching should be done within the first 3 grades of a child's education. And I've told you to find it in Unit 1, subsection 1.2. So every time I tell you exactly where to find the answer. And so you go on, please read them through, find the answers, highlight them in your study guide, or write it down, even better. Remember, every time that you write it down, you will remember it much better than just by highlighting or trying to memorize it the first time. Name some more. Now we come to describe or explain. Now here you know that your answer will be maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 marks. Okay. Please read them through, find the answers, Come back to me if you cannot find the answer. But it is in your study guide. You don't have to try and Google it. Or the only time I want you to Google something is if you don't know the meaning of the word. Then you may Google the meaning of the word. Okay? If you, for instance, don't know the meaning of core, why a teaching core of native English speakers are needed. If you don't know the meaning of that word core, Google it and go and look it up on Google. But the answers you won't find on Mr. Google. So often especially in your assignments, I find Google answers, which is not always correct because it's not what the person that set up the study guide wanted or implied. Okay, some more short questions that you have to study and go through. Now we come to the longer questions. Okay, let's read this first one together, for instance. Now these will be found in Unit 1. Many learners fail to attain the minimum language proficiency in English before the introduction of linguistically and thereby cognitively more demanding English medium subjects in grade 4. Above quotation comes from the study guide. So you see that is a quotation directly from the study guide. What do I want you to do? Discuss this quotation, explaining the following. What is the policy of the Ministry of Education as to the medium of instruction? What is the view of some educators and parents regarding this policy? So first you have to give the policy of the Ministry of Education. Now, what do some educators like me, for instance, or some parents, what are their view regarding the policy? What is the outcome of the view held by some educators and parents? And then you will find some possible solutions. Okay. Now the word discuss means that you have to look at all the facts and pick out the important things. Like when you eat a fish, you will pick out the flesh from the bones, leave the bones behind, and take out the flesh and eat it. This is what the word discuss means here. And you will see that it counts a hefty 25 marks. So make sure that you find the answer to this question and contact me if you can't. Also in Unit 1, briefly discuss the 5 basic levels of language skills. That, of course, is going to be phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics. Just explain each one briefly. 10 marks. So each one counts 10 marks. List 10 reasons why a teacher should encourage metalinguistic awareness in the class. Now, what does that word metalinguistic mean? It is the skill to become aware of your listener and how the listener is affected by your choice of words, your intonation, your tone, your volume, and your pace. You listening to me now, for instance, I've now used metalinguistic awareness because I want to stress certain things. I want you to pick up certain things that are important. Now, why should a teacher encourage this in the class? Go and look in Unit 1, subsection 1.3.5 to find the answers. Okay. 1.4, describe each of the following factors that influence language development in each pupil. You will find social factors, cognitive processes, linguistic factor, conceptual and perceptual factor for 25 marks. So that means roughly 6 facts for each one of those sections. Okay. Also in Unit 1, discuss the first 3 stages of intellectual, that's cognitive. Remember, intellectual means cognitive, development according to Piaget. Now, the 3 stages according to Piaget is the sensory motor stage, pre-operational stage, the concrete operational stage. You will find them in your study guide. Make notes and discuss it. Okay, also 1.5.2 in Unit 1, discuss the physical development domain of childhood development. You know that there are 4 domains. There's the physical domain of childhood development. Then there's the cognitive or intellectual domain. Then there's the language domain, which is very closely related to the cognitive domain. Then there's the social and emotional, which counts as 1 domain. Make sure that you know those 4 domains. Okay, now we come to Unit 2. Here you are going to find those perspectives. You've got the nativist, you've got the behaviorist perspective of language development. You've got the nativist perspective. You've got the constructionist perspective. You've got the interactionist perspective. Those 4 perspectives explain to us how language develops in the child. Now, these are theories, and they're not the same. All 4 theories differ. So make sure that you know the 4 theories and how they differ. Can you compare them? What does the nativist say, for instance, compared to the behaviorist perspective? So compare and contrast. What will you do? You will give me 2 columns. Here you will put the nativist perspective. Here you will put the behaviorist perspective, and try and compare. This is what the nativists say, but this is what the behaviorists say. Okay. Explain how the following children can be helped to maximize. That's an easy question. Just go and read it for yourself. Unit 2.6. The differences between learning a mother tongue and a second language are due to 3 main factors. What are the differences between learning the mother tongue, the second language? There are the 3 main factors. Okay, discuss the above that appears in the study guide by looking at each remark and come to a conclusion. Come to a conclusion means you're not going to find it in the study guide. You have to give your own conclusion. Okay, let's have a look at Unit 3. This is such an important topic to me. Describe how a teacher can go about to teach the children the sound of each letter of the alphabet. I've visited many schools all over Namibia, preschools especially, grade 1, 2, and 3 as well. But preschools are very close to my heart because this is where it all begins. And what do I find when I come into those classes? I see the teacher standing in front of the class going A, B, C, D, and then the little parrots go after her. A, B. That's pathetic. That really is pathetic. You do not teach a preschool child the alphabet. Because if you teach the alphabet C, now the child hears C, S-E-E. That's what the child hears. The same with A. If you want to sound the word cat, for instance, C-A-T. Okay. Now the child hears S-E-E. And for A, he hears A-Y, like in day, A. For T, he hears T-E-E. So what does the child now, you've taught him A, B, C, D, E, and so on. When he sees the word cat, he doesn't go k-at like he should. He goes C-A-T, which is not the same as cat. Do not teach the child the alphabet. Of course, the letters must be there on your wall. Of course, you're going to introduce them to the children one by one, but you start with the sounds. You hold up a sound and you say, this is A, not A, A. And what words begin with an A? Apple, ant, act. Simple words like that. And so you go on to teach the child the whole alphabet. Then you can later on point to the alphabet, but still, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, we don't teach them ABC. I don't want to hear that alphabet song. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't want to hear it. It doesn't teach the child anything. The only thing, it tells the parent that my child knows the alphabet, and it doesn't teach the child a thing. So I don't want to hear the alphabet song. And teach the sounds of the alphabet to the children in the correct way. If you're unsure what I'm telling you, please contact me. Okay, Unit 4. Describe, evaluate the use of newspapers and worksheets. That's very easy. Describe how one would create a good language learning environment in the classroom. Go to Unit 4, look at 4.4. What will you do in your class to create a good language learning environment in your classroom? We're not talking about maths now. We're not talking about science or technology. We're talking about language. Okay, 4.5.6 is important because here I want you to think. Take a very simple story like Little Red Riding Hood or Goldilocks or Jack and the Beanstalk. You know how the ending is. But now I want you to think of 5 different endings that you can come up with a story. So you could tell the story to your children up to a point. But when you come to the end, then you ask them, this is the question, what do you think happened then? If they do not know the story yet, they will come up with different outcomes. Oh, the wolf just ate them all up. Or a different outcome. The wolf put the mother in the cupboard, the grandmother, to hide her. And then she did the same with Little Red Riding Hood. Or maybe a friendly ending. She hid the mother in the cupboard because she wanted to have all that food for herself. And then she had a party with just Little Red Riding Hood while poor grandmother was in the cupboard. Can you see? Come up with 5 different endings to a well-known story. And this will count 10 marks in the exam. Okay, easy question. Explain how one would teach children to speak with confidence. Go and find it in your study guide. Unit 4, 4.5.8. Suggest pre- and post-story activities that can be used in your classroom. You know that some students don't know what pre means, and they don't know what post means. Pre means before. So what are you going to do before you read the story? Pre activities. Go and look in your study guide. Then there are some activities that you will do while you are reading a story to make sure the children concentrate, pay attention. Post means after. Post-mortem means examination after the person has died. Post, after. What activities will you do after reading the story? Okay. Explain how you would use minimal pairs and isolation to teach pronunciation to your children. Go and look in your study guide under those sections how you will teach pronunciation to your children by using minimal pairs or by using isolation. I'm not going to explain it now because it's put out very simply in your study guide. They will count 5 marks each. Good. Longer questions. Describe the process of assessment in the early stages of learning English. You know that the process of assessment is very important because that is how we evaluate whether the child is ready for the next stage, whether we need more repetition, whether the child needs to repeat the grade completely. Okay, so you must make sure of the process of assessment. Then, this is a difficult question. I want you to design something. Let's read it. Design a simple evaluation form of at least 10 points that can be handed out to the students after a simple lesson, where they can fill in yes or no, or good or not so good, even bad, and maybe a space for a simple remark. Smaller children that cannot write yet, the preschoolers, they can answer orally to this sheet that you have compiled. It's a simple evaluation form. For example, this is now an example. Question 1. Did you understand the lesson? And the child has to write yes or no. Or, what did you learn from the lesson? Now the child has to write. For instance, whales need air to breathe. That's what they learned in your lesson, for instance. That whales cannot stay under the water indefinitely. They have to come up every now and then to catch a breath of air. Okay, so compile a simple evaluation form. And it's a good idea that you do this before the exam. Don't try and do it there in the exam room. Go and look at in your study guide 7.7 and design such a simple evaluation form that learners can complete after a lesson that you have given them. Because you as a teacher need to have feedback. You need to know that the children have understood. They have grasped the main points. They have liked the lesson. They have liked the way that I have presented it. Okay, now let's come to possible language questions. Every exam paper has language questions. You will find them in Unit 3. 3.5.4, 3.5.5, and 3.5.6, and 3.5.7. Go and study them. Okay, so you will see that parts of speech are very important. Verb, what is a verb, for instance? It's the action or a state of being. Let's have a look there. A verb, I do something. I read a book. It's the action I am doing. Sometimes it's just a state of being. Am. I am ill. I'm not doing something. I just am. Okay. Then there's the noun, the adjective, the adverb, the pronoun, the preposition, and the joining word. Because you are going to be asked to identify the parts of speech in a sentence in the exam paper. So make sure that you understand what it means. Here it's all simplified for you. Let's look at nouns. You get different nouns. You get common nouns. You get proper nouns. I don't have to read this to you. There are collective nouns, a crowd of people, a swarm of birds. Then there are abstract nouns that cannot be touched or sometimes seen. But it's still a noun, a feeling, a characteristic, a concept, and so on. Nouns take plural forms. Here you will find the different plural forms that you can expect in the exams. Sometimes the word changes completely from mouse to mice. Sometimes a E is added on like potatoes, O-E-S. Sometimes there's no E like in radios. Study these plurals. You're going to get some of them in the exams. You must know what is a sentence. You must know what is a clause. You must know what is a phrase. Types of verbs. You must know these types of verbs and what they do. The action verb, the helping or auxiliary verb, the being verb, the irregular verb. Okay. Then I come to tenses. And this is what I said in the beginning of the presentation, that you must know your language. That is important. Your grammar, your pronunciation doesn't matter as long as your children can understand you. But it's how you use the language. Look at the simple present tense. Look at that first sentence. It describes a state of being. I have a cold. Now, at the moment, I have a cold. Not, I am having a cold. That's wrong. That's the wrong English. You cannot teach the children, I am having a cold. Or, she is having 2 children. That's wrong completely. If you say she is having 2 children, it means she's giving birth to 2 children now at this moment. She is actually having 2 children. You say she has 2 children. I have a cold. Okay, simple present tense. It's used for a state of being at present. It's used to express a habit. It's used to express a general truth. Okay, and so you continue with the tenses. Look, remember, I am, you were, they are, he, she, it is. I, you, we sleep, but he, she, it sleeps. You have to know this. This is not negotiable. You have to know your grammar if you want to teach your children properly. Simple past tense, read it through on your own when to use it. And so you will see the simple future tense, the present continuous tense, the past continuous tense, the future continuous tense, the present perfect tense, the past perfect tense, the future perfect tense. These are 9 tenses. There are 12, but I've discussed only 9. Make sure that you know the form. Make sure that you know when to use them. This is basic, simple English. Okay? Read question and negative forms. What are pre and post fixes? Punctuation. You're going to get a sentence in the exam that I ask you to punctuate. Go and look in your study guide. Unit 5, subsection 5.10. Tips on studying. Please read them through on your own as I do not have more time. You are much more likely to memorize your own words than that of the study guide. Put your answers in your own words. Okay? Read your answers every week. Make sure you understand what you have written. Your answers must make sense. Write your answers point by point below each other. You cannot do this, of course, when you are asked to do it in paragraph or in essay form. Okay? It doesn't help that you come back to me after the exam to query certain questions. You have to go and look at the report that I have written after the exams. And of course, you can only pass if you study sufficiently. That's very important. There are my contact details again. Remember, I do not work here at the office, so you have to phone me personally, and you do it within the hours that I've given you. There is my email address. Remember, I'm always willing to help you find an answer to a question. But once again, it's better to write me an email or to write me an SMS so that I can respond. I have time to study your question and respond properly. Okay, there's my contact details. Thank you. I hope you have found all of this informative, and good luck with your exams. Study hard. That's all I can tell you.